We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our friends at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use the box at sign up for 10 points. And here we go.
Good morning on week 10 of, is there some reverb there? Whoa. You hearing that? Thought I heard myself. Okay, there we go. Sorry.
Check. We're good.
We're good.
All right, come on, man.
All right, try again. Take two. Welcome to
No
week
room
10.
for error.
Sunday NFL pregame on the Sports Box. Brian Attardo along with Tony Quigley. Mike Aletta will join us in a little bit, getting you ready for week 10. Tony, how are you?
I'm doing good. Another beautiful Sunday morning. Plenty of football to play. Best part, Cowboys can't lose today.
That's true. Although, in some cases, losing is winning. We can have that discussion if you'd like, but no, that's true. They cannot affect.
Listen, I'm in agreement on that. But it's just painful to watch. It's kind of, it's kind of like putting your favorite family pet who's been sick to sleep. It has to be done, but it's still hard to do.
That's fair. Oh, God. So good morning, everyone. Phil, good morning. How are you, sir? Thanks for joining the show today. Show today brought to you by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Check out their free app on Apple's App Store, Google Play. It is free to play. You can win cash and prizes. They've had some really good NFL events the last couple weeks, so check them out. Use code THEBOX at sign up. Get 10 free points. And if you're anything like me, you might need them. Tony, you might not. You tend to be better at some of this than me, but yeah, it's not easy by any stretch, but you can win.
Nah, well, listen, whenever you're dealing with anything with the NFL and sports in general, NFL, no friggin' logic, and it's a little difficult to put some of these things together. I mean, but last week we hammered it out the park with our picks and our advice, fantasy-wise, and so hopefully this week we could get rolling and do it again.
Yep. So before we get into the games this week, I thought it'd be kind of interesting. We're just over the midpoint. We talked about the midpoint obviously last week, but now we're in the double-digit weeks, if you will. And I took a look at some of the odds on DraftKings for your Super Bowl winners, your individual allocades, most passing yards, things like that. So I kind of thought it'd be kind of cool to take a look and see, where these stack up right now and what we think might be the winners or the leaders, at least towards the end of the year. So we may as well start off with the whole shebang, and the whole shebang would be who is going to win the Super Bowl. These are odds courtesy of DraftKings. As of right now, somewhat of a little surprise, the Chiefs are leaders in the clubhouse at plus 350, but you have a bit of a jumble there going down even to the Cardinals at plus 3,300. Do any of these value odds kind of pop out to you?
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at these odds, it's a combination of who do you think is actually going to win and who actually is going to give you the best return on your investment. So when you're seeing a team like Tampa Bay Buccaneers, great shirt, thanks, Kev. Shout out to the Juice and the frenemies, but So, even though Tampa Bay looked pretty bad last week, they kind of jump at me at plus 900, the Saints at plus 700 as well, because if you're looking at complete teams, they have the opportunity to actually be in the Super Bowl. Now, to win the Super Bowl right now, it has to be the Chiefs, but you're going to get more value for your dollar if you're on Tampa Bay or the Saints. Long shot, it is tight. I would go with maybe the Indianapolis Colts. That defense looked a little bit impressive in the second half. They made plays, and if Rivers could get it together with that three-headed running game that they have, that might be the long shot at plus 2,500. It view it as a scratch off, but if they actually take a hold of that division, I mean, those odds might drop a little bit. But for NFL championship, my bets that I would like would be the Chiefs because it's more of a sure thing. If there is some, and then the Buccaneers at plus 900 and the Saints at plus 700. They're the ones that I would actually find some value in.
Mike, I know you came on late. Welcome to the show today.
Hi, guys.
Taking a look at some of the odds coming into Week 10, individual awards, things of that nature. These are courtesy of DraftKings, as I mentioned. So we're looking at odds to win the Super Bowl. What stands out to you in this list?
Actually, like Tony said, the Bucs, I mean, as high as they are, that's probably not a bad one. I'm surprised they're that high, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, it looks true to form. The Cardinals are in there too. Yeah, I mean, it looks true to form. Obviously, the Chiefs are, the favorite in both leagues. I mean, the firepower that they have. The Saints, a little surprised they're number 2. With the injuries they've had, but they have played well. The Bucs 3, I'm a little surprised they're 3. To be honest, I probably have a couple teams ahead of them, like maybe the Colts and the Seahawks. But no, I mean, like I said, like Tony said, I think the Bucs. That's good value. If the Bucs do get to the Super Bowl, I don't think it's a long shot, but if they do get to the Super Bowl, it'll be the first time in history an NFL team plays at home because the Super Bowl is in Tampa this year. Yeah, the Ravens, I guess, have slacked off a couple weeks. They're back a little bit. Packers, yeah. I mean, now it looks pretty true to form. I think the Bucs are a little high though, and I think New Orleans is a little high too.
But what the thing that you're looking at too, it's you have to check out the path of least resistance. And when you're looking at a team like the Ravens or a team like the Bills, it's going to be difficult for them to surpass the Steelers and Chiefs to get there. I mean, their road is much tougher. Right. Getting the Saints or the Buccaneers at those plus 700, plus 900, even Packers a little bit as well. I mean, one of those teams most likely are going to be in the Super Bowl. So you're almost ensuring that you're at least going to have a dog in the fight at very good odds.
Yeah, Bucs are in kind of a pickle too because they lost that game to the Saints. They Saints swept the series now, so they have to pass the Saints now. Right. To win the division, but they have a tough road. The Bucs, they're going to play some decent teams coming up. I think they're on Monday night again against the Rams, so they have a tough path. I mean, that's why I'm surprised they're up at 3. I mean, it's not like they have an easy road to get to the Super Bowl. They have a tough road.
No, but plus 900 is still a good value.
Okay. I think the team that stands out to me, frankly, is Green Bay because, like you said, Tony, I think that. If you're taking anybody other than the Chiefs and Steelers in the AFC, you're going to probably have to see a team beat both of them to get through. I think that's difficult to do. So if I flip it over to the NFC side of things, yes, Green Bay has not played overly well, games against the Bucs, games against the Vikings recently, but if they can get home field, that's huge for them to potentially, again, at plus 1,000, I think I would rather take Green Bay at those odds than the Saints or the Bucs because they're semi-interchangeable. So, I mean, Seattle's defense is going to be a problem, and I think that these odds indicate that.
Absolutely.
I kind of look at Green Bay and say, if I'm going to take a shot, I like the 10-1. I mean, Rodgers looks, I mean, they're a little streaky, but I mean, when they're on, they're on. I mean,
and if you look at it too, I mean, the teams that are going to come out of NFC East. Okay, first of all, I'm a seller on the Steelers. Let's get that straight right. They got beat up by the Ravens and only won that game by turnovers, and then they struggled against a Garrett Gilbert-led Cowboys team. So I'm a seller on the Steelers right now. So I think the Chiefs has a firm hold on that. But to your point, Packers at 10-1, Bucks at 9-1, Saints. I think that really is going to determine who has the advantage once the playoff matchups are set and who's going to have the easier path to it if there is one.
Yeah, like I said, I think for me, I'd rather, play those odds than anything else. But I think it is kind of interesting. I mean, the Chiefs just at 3.5 to 1. I mean, that does that say more maybe to your point about Pittsburgh? Maybe they're thinking the AFC is not as tight.
Yeah, well, I think there's going to be a couple other teams that might jump up. I still am a big believer in the Ravens. That defense, the running game, I think they're going to be in it at the end. Lamar Jackson came out and kind of criticized what we've been saying for a couple of weeks now. I know me personally, I've been saying for a couple of weeks that offense has been very, very vanilla. For what they run, it's been vanilla. It's been very predictable. Greg Roman has not done a great job leading back to the Kansas City game, and that kind of bared its head in these last couple of weeks. And even though they did win, you're looking at them kind of, they're not happy with how the offense is flowing, and rightfully so. And I didn't like Roman's comments about that, kind of just blowing it off, because it is very obvious. Like, oh, every team knows what every team's running anyway. Like,
right.
That's such a cop out, because you could firmly tell that some of the plays that Kansas City is setting up and executing, teams had no idea what was coming. Yeah,
you can see that drop off in the Baltimore offense. I mean, Mark Andrews hasn't been that much involved lately. Marquise Brown, it's been off. It's just been off for whatever reason, and they have to get back to what they did before in the beginning of the year to beat Baltimore. Their defense is fine. Their defense can stop people, but their offense just has to get that firepower back. It just seems like Jackson's trying to do too much. He's trying to make too many plays, running the ball, and throwing passes when he shouldn't be throwing passes. He's just got to get it back on track again.
And to that point, you look at the MVP odds. So Lamar Jackson is 50 to 1 to repeat that. So I mean, I guess you can see where he lies right now. But a part of that, obviously, look, this is an award that quarterbacks normally win. That's why you look at this list and the running backs started Dalvin Cook. There's only 3 out of the 12 names here are not quarterbacks, but I think it's interesting because Russell Wilson's never won this award, and I think the stat has never received a vote for this award. He is the leader right now. Yeah. But I don't know how that play again. If they fall off because of their defense, does he get looked at differently in that? A lot of these end up being the quarterback on the best team type thing. So,
right,
his defense may hold him back there. If you look at this again from an odds perspective. I mean, I like Kyler Murray coming in, but I think he's such a long shot now that, I mean, you can sprinkle it if you really want to. They could maybe go on a run the second half. But if you want to stay out of the top 2, again, I think Rodgers would be the interesting one, because he's been on a mission this year. And if Green Bay does get themselves into that 1 seed in the NFC, he's going to be viewed as the reason why.
I'm surprised Roethlisberger is 8, to be honest with you. I'm surprised he's even in the top 10.
Well, they're undefeated. They're undefeated teams, so he's going to be there. He's the quarterback for undefeated teams, so that's kind of a no-brainer to have him up there. And if they go 16-0 by some miracle, or he is definitely going to be in its tremendous value at plus 3,300, because he'll win the award. I mean, it really doesn't matter what everybody goes. If he's the quarterback for an undefeated team and he's Ben Roethlisberger, a Hall of Famer, he's going to win the award. So that plus 3,300 is tremendous value.
It's actually more value, Tony. Those odds are better than them going 16-0. So if you think they're going to go 16-0, that's a proxy play on it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I don't think they will, because, like I just said, I'm a little down on their how they've been playing. It's kind of strange, not surprising, but a little strange that Russell Wilson is almost even money, considering what did they drop their last 2? I believe it is.
I believe so. Yeah, I know they just lost last week.
So they lost last week. Then they lost the week before, I believe. He is by far and away the leader, going into the clubhouse 2 weeks ago. But now, how much is that offense and that defense and them losing going to affect that? And I think it is, because if they keep dropping games, they play in Los Angeles today against a Rams team that probably has a really good shot of beating them, because their defense is just a little bit better than what they need to do. I mean, can you be the MVP dropping 3 in a row like that? And it's tough. So I think The teams look at teams on the upswing. Kansas City at Pat Mahomes at plus 200, who's always right there. I like Kyler Murray at plus 2,500 as well, because if they do win that division, it's a very similar path to how Lamar Jackson won it last year. Same parts, same scope in their career, same style of play, very exciting to watch. If they actually come out to win that division, which, with they have a win against Seattle, it very may well be plus 2,500 for a quarterback right now is very good.
Just so much of it's tied to team success. I mean, if you look at it like you said, Minnesota's unlikely to make the playoffs. Even if you think Dalvin Cook's been unbelievable the last 2 weeks, which he has, and we'll talk about it, that's going to be a hard sell to win MVP. That's why it's going to be the quarterbacks of the winning teams, which is why if you don't think Seattle's going to see this through, you might be selling on Wilson. Not that it's his fault.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and there's not really much value there. I mean, he's such a favorite at plus 125. Okay. It's not really that exciting bet that you're trying to cash in on, to be honest with you. I mean, there's plenty weekly. There's much better bets, to have to worry about that. And then you have to worry about injury too, when you're talking about some of these player props.
Right. Next up is kind of interesting was Offensive Rookie of the Year. There's only a couple names here that are interesting, but actually it's it's the three quarterbacks that are the top three, but I think it's kind of interesting that Tua's late arrival, I think, is what's causing him to go down this list here. But Burrow and Herbert being tied, that's a win for Herbert in a year where obviously, Burrow was the number one pick. He was the more heralded guy, and Herbert went below Tua. That's interesting. I mean, Herbert's got a legit, obviously I'm not breaking the news here. He's got a legitimate shot, but I think if you had asked this question a couple weeks ago, you would not have thought they'd be tied.
No, I mean, when you're looking at Justin Herbert, there's a lot of excitement in the Chargers organizations about him, how they've been losing in spectacular fashion. For the most part, they've blown some leads, and it hasn't been Herbert's fault. He's orchestrated some nice comebacks. The bet, Joe Burrow has been losing as well. He's been passing, making records, everything like that. He's looked great. I still personally think that it should be Joe Burrow's award to lose right now. I think he just played a little bit better, but the Chargers as a team have been a little bit more exciting. But when you're looking at, what was it? Herbert hit I think their tight end in the end zone last week. I thought it should have been a touchdown. They ruled it incomplete for the game winner. I mean, so there's a lot of momentum there. The bet that I like here, and the one that I already placed, is Tua at plus 1,000. First of all, who has the most wins as a rookie quarterback this year?
Tua.
Exactly. He has more wins already. Okay. Team stat, but still it counts. If Tua takes this team to the playoffs, because Burrow and Herbert definitely are not making their team to the playoffs. The Dolphins have a legit shot making the playoffs. If Tua takes this team to the playoffs and goes, puts together 6 wins or something as a rookie, which is going to be more than double the other two guys, probably combined more. He has a legit shot for it. And at plus 1,000, that's where the value is. I'd rather bet $10 on Tua to win than $100 on either Burrow or Herbert to win.
Sure. Mike, I know you love Justin Herbert. We know this very much, but your read on this one.
Well, Herbert, I think Herbert's up there too, because he's had a good year in a way of when he gets in there, he's playing till the final bell. He's had some, almost game-winning drives in a lot of these games. And with Burrow's throwing a ton. But you know what? The Bengals are in there. The Bengals are in the hunt in a lot of these games. So I think Burrow's getting better. Herbert's getting better. But like Tony said, I mean, Tua looks like he's getting the job done right now. I mean, he's not – he's that guy that's flashy, that's making plays for Miami. I mean, Miami was good before Tua got in there, but he's playing really well. He seems real comfortable. He's caught up to the speed of the game. And, yeah, when you look at odds, I mean, Tua has won a bunch of games. Look like he's going to win a couple more with that terrible schedule Miami has. So, yeah, I would do the same thing with Tua with plus 1,000. I agree.
It's a fun game today with Herbert and Tua facing off too.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be a fun one. And I think Tua plays. I think Tua and Burrow face off a couple weeks from now. So that's just
definitely going to be a high-scoring game. I think in the Miami Chargers game. So.
Yeah. Question coming in from Kevin Groman. Who's the defensive rookie of the year? And I thought coming in, we all thought it'd be Chase Young. I don't know if that's material.
Injuries have hurt him though. So.
Yeah, listen, the defensive rookie of the year, and I think I said it last week previewing the game, which kind of didn't turn out how I know Galetta and Kevin Groman did not want. Antoine Winfield Jr. all over the place, making plays. He's a catalyst for that Bucs defense that actually before last week looked pretty good. So, I noticed the answer KG wants to hear, and it's going to be Antoine Winfield Jr. because right now he just has more impact.
I mean, I think he's got, Tony, to your point, I think he's got 2 picks this year. He's really played well in covering guys and made some plays. I mean, I agree.
Well, we'll translate that into defensive player of the year. And Aaron Donald is not the leader, which I think this is his award all the time. But actually, TJ Watt is a slight favorite over him. And obviously, a couple of other big names. But Mike, again, if this is tied to team success, I understand why Watt is there. I'm not betting against Aaron Donald.
Yeah, I'm just reading here because it's a little bit small for me for the print. But Minka Fitzpatrick is down the bottom. I'm surprised at that. I mean, he's had a couple picks already. I think 1, 2, 3 picks. I think one for pick 6 already. But yeah, I mean, TJ Watt, to go back to Tony's point, I think it's because of Pittsburgh. I mean, undefeated, you got to put them up there because the defense is playing good. I mean, they're not playing outstanding, but they're playing enough to get the job done and really playing enough that they're undefeated. So I would put money on Aaron Donald, though. I mean, to be honest with you, I think Aaron Donald's having a great year. The Rams' success defensively is he's the corner piece of it. He's pushing quarterbacks around. He's making other things happen in that defense. I would take Aaron Donald in the way of throwing some shekels down on.
Shekels.
Mm-hmm. I'm taking Myles Garrett. He leads the league in sacks. He's tied with Aaron Donald at 9. He's been extremely disruptive. Pressures are out off the charts as well. Myles Garrett, if I was going to take this at plus 350. Aaron Donald, this is just if Aaron Donald's in the league, it's pretty much his award for the most part. But that's not how it always works. I like Garrett at plus 350. I think he does end the season as leading the league in sacks for that Browns team, and he's just been disruptive and in the backfield all season. Dark horse, I don't really think that there's too big of a dark horse, but the Fitzpatrick at plus 3,300 kind of jumps out at you. But he's also fighting with TJ Watt. So if they have extreme team success, it's going to be who gets the benefit of it. Right now, I like the plus 3,300 is just too big to ignore.
Right. But like you said, I mean, it's an award that Donald just wins all the time, regardless of what the Rams are doing, and that's the Rams are actually ahead of expectation right now. So when you look at it that way, it's kind of like, well, I guess that's kind of interesting. This is actually kind of really interesting to me. Most passing yards. Russ and Pat at plus 300. Matt Ryan, who stinks, right behind them.
League leader, Matt Ryan.
League leader. And then it's a bit of a free-for-all. The fact that Joe Burrow is on this list, God bless him. But again, the reason that I lean to Russ here is because of the defense.
Absolutely.
And because of that defense, they're never really able to sit on leads. The Chiefs can kind of do that. So Matt Ryan doesn't have a defense either. So I get that too. But I'm curious to see, again, those games are going to start meaning a lot less in Atlanta. They really don't mean anything now. So if Russ is trying to win MVP, if Russ wins the passing yards, I think if Russ wins MVP, he wins this. Is my take.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. First of all, I don't think it's going to be Matt Ryan. They're on a bye this week, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So by the end of this week, he'll probably be 5th or 6th in passing yards because Wilson should have a big game. Deshaun Watson, I think, has an extremely big game. He plus 700. I like him for a big reason why Brian said for Russ Wilson is you get the same ills with the defense. They're going to be chucking the ball, throwing the ball around. There's going to be a lot less games that actually have any meaning. So plus 700 Deshaun Watson is definitely a nice play here. if I was going to bet, it would be him and Russell Wilson. Just lack of defense, and the Deshaun Watson odds are great. Josh Allen, who's currently, I think he's top 3 in the league in yards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's top 3. He's about 200 yards, 150 yards behind Matt Ryan. At plus 1,100 is a little eye-opening, but I think that schedule tightens up a little bit, and I don't think he continues the pace. So I'd go with Watson as my number 1 pick at plus 700, and then I like the short value at Russell Wilson at plus 300 too.
I like Wilson as well, but I'll tell you what, it's a shame that Joe Burrow is not in the. I don't think the conversation here with all these guys in front of him. I mean, Joe Burrow is throwing the ball an absolute ton. I mean, he's throwing the ball probably 45 to almost 50 times a game. Problem is, he doesn't have the elite receivers as a lot of these guys have. I mean, to be honest with you, I'd throw a little bit down on Joe Burrow. I mean, if these guys start catching passes, he's throwing so much that yard's just going to stack up in a hurry. But I mean, I think Russell Wilson in the end is going to take the yardage, to be honest with you, because he's throwing bombs. I mean, all over the place.
But he has to. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't think Mahomes necessarily has to. At some point, they're up 33-10. They can call the dogs off. Seattle can't do that.
Well, technically, if you look at pass attempts, I mean, Cincinnati is far and away more than anybody else throwing the ball a ton. Problem is that Joe Burrow's not that accurate yet on his passes, and that's an issue too. I mean, Russell Wilson's throwing bombs. When you got a guy like DK Metcalf, who's like Randy Moss, you could throw it to him, and he could jump out of the ceiling and go get it.
Joe Burrow has a higher completion percentage than Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, same as Matt Ryan. I mean, accuracy isn't his problem, buddy.
T. Higgins has been great for them. He really has.
Listen, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I mean, they have weapons. It's just his schedule gets easier. I just think that they're just too far behind for him to actually win the award. He's still 400 yards past behind Patrick Mahomes. He's still he has a lot of ground to make up. He's 3rd in attempts, 67% completion percentage. Matt Ryan's averaging 305 yards a game, which is pretty impressive, and that's going to continue. But Burrow. That's going to be tough for him to make up that ground.
This is a coin flip for me for the rushing yards. And I got the 2 names below Cook and Henry just to show you how big the gap is. Next up is Josh Jacobs at 22-1, but both Cook and Henry are minus money. And
I'm not to cut you off, but looking at James Robinson on here, imagine what his preseason odds were.
Yeah.
Undrafted.
Even the list.
I mean, they probably were plus 10,000, I think that's probably the max, but wow,
It does tell you something. What's interesting about this one is we're going to get to the point in the next couple of weeks here where Henry's got something to play for and Cook doesn't. And that might edge this. That's just my thought. Because again, I keep having these visions of, what happens to these teams when there's nothing to play for? Are they really going to go out there and give their all? Are they going to follow COVID protocol? Again, we can have those discussions. But Derrick Henry is the straw that stirs the drink for Tennessee. Tennessee has aspirations of going into the playoffs and making a run like they did last year. Minnesota needs to pretty much run the table to have a shot of close to it, to have a shot of that. I don't foresee that. So I'd be curious at some point when Minnesota says, let's pull him back, use Madison more if needed, and not overuse a guy in games that don't matter when actually at the end of the day, we're probably better off losing those games anyway. Again, high level thought. For me, if I'm betting anybody in this list, I would take Derrick Henry for that reason. And I think Cook's high right now.
You think he's high as far as?
Well, I think that the last couple of games have vaulted him. And I think that the sexy name, so that's.
Well, he's sexy because first of all,
he's very good.
By the end of this week, he's going to be the league's leading rusher. Okay, because Henry surpassed him Tuesday. Bulked up that lead Tuesday. So I mean, there's how much gap between the two? There's less than 100-yard gap. So if Dalvin Cook has 100 yards against a tough Chicago defense, maybe not, but it's possible. Dalvin Cook's only played 7 games. He played 2 less games than Henry, and he's less than 100 yards behind him. The gap between 1 and 2 and Josh Jacobs in 3rd and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's kind of, from a lot of aspects, been a disappointment, I know, in a lot of fantasy circles, with 500. So it's like you have Dalvin Cook with 858 yards. Then you have Josh Jacobs with 588 yards. I mean, that's over 200 yards difference, and the guy played 7 less games. I see your point about them shutting him down, nothing to play for. But you're talking about a team who's also won two straight. Then they go to Dallas. Then they go to Carolina. Then they go to Jacksonville. All right. There's a lot of opportunity for the Minnesota Vikings to win 2 of their next 3 games. Even 4 in a row possibly. So the momentum might be there. I would take Dalvin Cook if I was going to bet it, which I'm not, because at minus 118, there's no value there. I can't. It's just not. It's one of them avoid bets.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tight coming down to the wire with, like you said, Dalvin Cook. He's got a favorable schedule coming down the stretch. But you talk about Derrick Henry, where a guy who ran 103 yards against a team that hasn't allowed a 100-yard rusher the entire year with the Colts. I mean, he really ran the ball well against them, powered through it. There's only, he's got a tough schedule coming up. I mean, he's got Pittsburgh again. He's got some tough matchups. But I think if you had to take a bet on it, which I'm not, I mean, I'd take Derrick Henry because I think he's, like Brian said, he's going to have more to play for and more to push for moving forward with Tennessee going to the playoffs, where Minnesota is probably more than likely not going to make the playoffs, even though Dalvin Cook's won 2 games and he's been a beast in both of those games. I mean, I don't know if he can keep that pace up. He's on a monumental pace with that. But if I had to throw something down, I'd throw it on Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I wonder if people are not that I don't want to say they're overrating him, because I don't want to make it sound like that. But again, the last 2 games have been just so above and beyond the mean that, like, you're going to regress. That's just the nature of it. You have to. So
you think about the nature of the game. I mean, Derrick Henry this year had a 200-yard game. I think he followed that up with like a 70-yard game or something like that. And before that, he had like a 50-yard game. So it's the nature of the position. It's kind of nature of the game plan as well. So, I mean, these numbers account for the spikes in value, so you're looking for your median average. And if you're looking at, average per game, you got Cook at 122 and Henry at 105. So, I mean, I like Cook to overtake him.
Hypothetically, in the next 2 years, do you think there's any chance that Dalvin Cook would ask for a trade?
Yeah, it's a running back. I mean, if anybody a huge contract or something like that, you're never going to get value for it. They paid Dalvin Cook. He's one of the best runners in the league. Should be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. They screwed that pick up way back when. Yeah. But I don't think he demands a trade. I don't think he has much leg to stand on. And
I only say that because I know they're going to need a quarterback next year, because
they might be in position to draft one though.
The Cousins experiment's not working out. Yeah, but even if they draft one, you're looking at him getting the quarterback they draft getting better, and with him running the way he is, he's going to want to play for somebody who's got a chance to win. This is going to be a year he's not winning this year. Next year they probably won't win if they draft the quarterback. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge in the next couple of years to get Minnesota back on track. So I just thought, do you think he's one of those guys that maybe in the next 2 years says, what, I want out? So.
Yeah, you go back and look at that draft year. I'm just actually looking at it right now, just as a bit of a refresher. Some of the running backs that went that year, and really the worst one went the first one. In Leonard Fournette, McCaffrey, Cook, Mixon, Kamara, Hunt. I mean, Connor, even Tariq Cohen. You want to make that call? I mean,
yeah. That was the year, like Tony said, for the Bucs to get a running back, and they kind of missed the boat on that. So
I mean, there were 5 straight guys you couldn't miss. I mean, there were 4 straight guys in the second and third round for 41 to 86 that you couldn't miss. And local guy over James Conner.
Fournette didn't work out in Jacksonville, but he actually had some very good years there. Took that team to the playoffs. So I'm not going to bash him as like him being a draft bust. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I think he's still a good running back. He just had a unfortunate situation in Jacksonville where it didn't work out. So.
He's not McCaffrey. He's not some of these other guys, but he still has been. He was still as good. I mean,
but to the point, we make the Zeke point all the time. He was the 4th pick in the draft.
No, absolutely not. There's no running back that should be the 4th pick of the draft. Pretty much in the history of 4th picks of the draft.
Right.
I mean, you can't go and find me a running back that was like, oh yeah, they're great. They drafted him, and I think Edgerrin James maybe, but he was.
They never won.
Yeah, but he had Manning. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little different when you draft. You know what I'm saying? That's like Patrick Mahomes, winding up with a top 5 pick, taking a top running back, and Travis Etienne's a Chief now, and all of a sudden, it just doesn't work out.
Last but not least is the most receiving yards, and I think the name that stands out to me here is Davante Adams.
Absolutely.
That's the one where if I'm gonna lay some shekels down, that's what I'm looking at, because I'm not like huge on Josh Allen's arm. I think he's a fine quarterback, and that team can be fine. But I'd much rather have Aaron Rodgers' primary target, and I think that Hopkins just has these games where like you don't really see him for a while, and then he catches a couple. Metcalf, I think, is again. Lockett's still there. I love DK Metcalf. Lockett's still there. Adams,
and they're getting a tight end involved a little bit more too. So I mean,
if I were betting, I would bet Adams here.
Mm-hmm.
The guy I liked, I don't see him on the board. I don't know. I like Robbie Anderson. I like I have to see who's there between Julio, still coming out, because they're still going to be charged. Like these teams that chuck the ball a lot. DCAF is there. For the guys you have on this list, I think is Diggs leading. Let me look this up real quick. Yeah, Stephon Diggs is leading the league in receiving, and Travis Kelce is actually third. So that would be an interesting number as well. But Davante Adams, to your point, is definitely a good pick. It's so tough. Like we said, I think there's going to be regression with some Allen, so I'll be off that. DeAndre Hopkins, we said it before in the preview show last week, is that he was going to have a battle, and give credit to Kyler Murray. In the Bucs game against Tre'Davious White, he faces Jalen Ramsey today, which is another poor matchup. He's been out begging for pass interference yards to be credited towards receiving yards, which I kind of see his point. But then you'd have to add, 3,000 yards to Randy Moss, maybe.
I've been saying that for years. I mean, they basically say pass interference and says you would have caught this ball if not for this penalty. So,
especially since it's a spot foul, so it's not. Davante Adams has great value here. I would look at Robbie Anderson too. I don't know what his props are, but I like Robbie Anderson. He's been the leading receiver for Carolina. McCaffrey's out again. So I think he's been consistently up there. So those are two guys that I would look at. I'd stay away from Metcalf. I'd stay away from Hopkins. Davante Adams, Robbie Anderson, maybe dark horse Travis Kelce if he keeps on this pace.
I like Davante Adams just for a simple reason. He gets targets. I mean, you look at all these other teams with DK Metcalf. He has Lockett there. DeAndre Hopkins, he's got Kirk there. And you look at Stephon Diggs, he does have Brown there. And these guys, I wouldn't say they get a ton of targets, but if you look at the Green Bay situation, I mean, they're trying to throw to Davante Adams as much as they can with Lazard and who they have there. So that's why I like Davante Adams. I think he's going to get a lot more targets. He's going to get more production. He's just going to start racking up the yardage. And if you had to, take anybody out of those, I'd definitely put some money down on Davante Adams.
Yeah, and this is another game they're facing Jacksonville this week.
Yeah,
and as we saw last week, Aaron Rodgers looking to pad these numbers against bad teams as he did against the 49ers.
It is supposed to rain down there, though, in high wind, I heard, but who knows what's going to happen. So,
well, wind's a factor in offensive.
Yeah,
play. The rain, not so much. The receivers always know where they're going, so that's always been something.
They're saying 25 to 30 mile an hour winds, so we'll see.
Yeah,
I just think what stands out to me is the guy who's leading this in DK Metcalf was the 64th overall pick in that draft year, and the 57th overall pick, Mr. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, is
How's he working out, Brian?
He is inactive today. Inactive
because that all-pro wide receiver is going to be active, and that's Alshon Jeffries, right? Alshon Jeffrey, it might be one of the most overrated receivers. He's epitome of average, but it's
first game back in a year. And they got to play. And they got to plan because those Giants are really a defensive threat. So they really got to get as much as they can out there today.
And we will get to that game. But so today we have 5 games in the early window, 6 games in the late window. It's the first time since '95 that Sunday we'll have more late games than early games. It's not week 17. There are some major names that will not be playing today. McCaffrey, Kenny Golladay, injuries in Jacksonville, obviously. Justin Jackson misses the game for the Chargers today. Freeman's out for the Giants. David Johnson's going to miss some time for the Texans. Mixon's out. Carson's out. Hyde's out. and the injuries for the Niners continue.
But who's back, Bri? But who's back?
Who is back?
Nick Chubb, baby.
Nick Chubb. I could have traded for him last night. I chose not to. And that's the first game on the list. So the 2-6 Houston Texans visit the 5-3 Cleveland Browns. The Browns are laying 4 in this game. Over-unders 45.5. For Cleveland, it's really feast or famine. They've scored either 30-plus points or 7 or less in each of their games. Nick Chubb returns against the Texans D, allowing a league-high 159.5 rushing yards against. Get him in your lineups, but he will be splitting it sometime with Kareem Hunt. And for Houston, we talk about MVPs, and obviously it's not going to be Deshaun Watson because they're not winning, but his 108.7 passer rating is the highest by a quarterback with a losing record in the Super Bowl era. Tony, we've said a lot about Houston. Listen, Bill O'Brien's gone. That's a good thing. It hasn't really turned into wins as of yet. They were not active at the deadline, thought they should be on the sell side. This is a down year. They're not going to have their first round pick. So it's the odds of this turning around are frankly rather slim due to a lot of, malfeasance by the previous GM/coach/whatever. This is a game that if Cleveland intends to make a run to the playoffs, they have to put in the win column.
Yeah, listen, the game plan for this game is very, very simple for the Cleveland Browns. Now, will they continue to execute it? It's still the Cleveland Browns. It's still Baker Mayfield. So you always have that question. You get Nick Chubb back, okay? Obviously, with the two-headed monster with him and Kareem Hunt, best rushing attack in the NFL, depending on how you feel about Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook, in their total offense. But the combined best rushing attack, okay? Then they also get Wyatt Teller back, who is probably the best run-blocking offensive lineman in the NFL. Shout out to Quentin Nelson as well, who's just phenomenal. So you have these two factors, okay? Cleveland, play defense, run the shit out of the ball, win the game. Don't overcomplicate it. That's how it should be. I believe Stefanski seems to have Baker Mayfield's head in the right place for 75% of the time, which is more than it's been in the past. Cleveland runs the ball. They win the game. Myles Jarrett makes Houston's Deshaun Watson's nightmarish day and tough season continue. The other thing, Brian, that you didn't mention talking about the Houston Texans and their trouble, they guaranteed Romeo Crennel as the coach for 2021 now. Little surprising. Big question mark in the direction of that ownership and in the direction of the franchise. I've said it many, many times that the Houston Texans do not care about winning football, because if they did, they would have been going through things way different as they could. They should have been sellers, but they don't care. They're going to have Romeo Crennel, who's a lifelong NFL coach, solid, never spectacular. He's going to be here. They're going to go out there, going to run out Deshaun Watson. They might score some points. They're not going to win many games, and I guess the Houston ownership is happy with that. So I like Cleveland here. Don't shoot themselves in the foot. Win and cover.
Yeah,
I was going to say Will Fuller, though, has had at least a touchdown or more in 6 straight games. That's the longest in franchise history. And Cleveland is allowing the 5th most fantasy points per game to wide receivers this year. That does bode well for him. Jarvis Landry, though, Mike. So Jarvis Landry doesn't have a touchdown this year, a receiving touchdown in 8 games. That's the longest single-season drought of his career.
Yeah, I was going to say with Tony's pick, I like Cleveland as well in this game. It's really simple. The weather's not going to be that inviting up there. Chance of rain, 25, 30 mile an hour winds in Cleveland. It's going to be rough sledding for both quarterbacks, I think, in this game. But you look at the run defense. David Johnson's out. You're going to have Duke Johnson in there. You talk about Chubb coming back. It's very simple for Cleveland. Run all day long. And I think it's going to be the game plan with him and Hunt. Definitely, I think the Browns, I don't know if they win by double digits, but I think they win easily in this game. I don't think, like I said, because of the wind and because of the weather, I think it's going to be a little bit tricky for the teams. I just think running back, you got to give the edge to Cleveland. I'll take Cleveland.
Again, I'm going to go on need here. Houston doesn't need this game. Cleveland does. Cleveland's in a dogfight to make the playoffs, and they have made the playoffs in a very long time. So I'm going to assume that they're going. And again, the most Cleveland thing would be, to win by a field goal and not cover the 4. But again, they either score a lot or they score a little. The way the defense looks in this game, I think they're capable of scoring a lot. And then it comes down to what Houston does. I'll lay the 4 points. The Washington football team is also 2-6, just like those Houston Texans, and they will visit the 3-5 Detroit Lions. The Lions are laying 3 in this game, over under 46.5. Alex Smith, 5-0 in his career against the Lions. That's the most such wins for him versus any team without a loss. And what's kind of interesting here is Stafford's really fallen off. Stafford has fewer than 13 fantasy points in 2 of his last 4 games. The Washington's allowing the fewest pass yards to quarterbacks this year. That's interesting. The Lions have only allowed 1 300-yard passer this year, and that was Matt Ryan. They allowed 8 last year, so the defense is getting better for Detroit. So, Mike, I mean, this might be a game where I know Tony said this life's short to bet unders, but I think the offenses may struggle here.
Yeah, Alex Smith has struggled in his last couple of games. I know he's probably obviously the comeback player of the year with what he's gone through. But Washington defensively, I think, is a good team. And like you said, Brian, Detroit has gotten better on defense. So, normally you'd say this game's a track meet, but I mean, it's going to be, I think, a really slow-moving game. I think it's going to be, with the running backs for Detroit. I mean, you do have DeAndre Swift. You got, some other guys in there that can run the ball, and Washington with Gibson and things like that. I think this is going to be a run game as well. I mean, it's going to be some passing here and there, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. But push comes to shove, I'm going to take the line. I mean, I'm going to take the Washington in this game, given 3, because I got no faith in Detroit that they can do anything right, even pull off a game at home. So I'll take Washington and lay the 3.
I'm Detroit all day, every day on this game, to be honest with you. Alex Smith just can't get it done behind center. It's a shame to see, but he's just not the player he is. And this just shows you how bad Haskins is because, a one-legged Alex Smith is a better option moving forward. Detroit, and here's the key with this, Detroit's pressure. They're able to pressure the quarterback. It's improved greatly as far as the defense. Alex Smith's really only offensive target is going to be Terry McLaurin, who I expect to have a solid day today. But when it comes down to it, Matt Stafford, that offense is just going to be able to score a little bit more points than Washington, because I think that Washington offense is going to have trouble against the Detroit defense, which is weird to say. But there's just not enough weapons, and Alex Smith just isn't getting the game done. So I think Alex Smith finally loses to the Detroit Lions today.
My favorite prop is the over for Antonio Gibson in yards. I think the number is 44.5, 45.5. He's got 10 plus fantasy points, 6 of his last 7. Detroit allowing the most fantasy points per game to running backs this year. I think if you're playing that, I do like him to go on his over. This is the 6th game since 1950 between quarterbacks that were picked first overall with 30,000 plus passing yards and 190 plus touchdowns. The road quarterback is 4-1 in such games. However, I'm going to lean Detroit in this game. I think they cover the 3. I think the 3 is pretty close. I don't really blow them out, but I do like that. And honestly, if I was erring on anything on the over under, I would err to the under. I'm not betting the under.
No, I'm not touching this game in any way, shape, or form. If I did, I'd do the Lions -3, but it's a little. So many question marks for 2 bad teams, Yeah.
Speaking of, one bad team, the 1-7 Jaguars, with the only win coming against those Colts in week 1, visit the 6-2 Green Bay Packers. Packers are laying 14, the over-under 47.5. Green Bay has allowed the most rushing touchdowns to running backs in the league with 11. They are 6-2, both the past 2 years under LaFleur. Only 3 of those such seasons in 13 for current Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy, who clearly is not 6-2 in Dallas. James Robinson, 7 touchdowns this year, leads tied for most among the rookies, probably why he's getting some of those individual award thoughts. Packers' offensive line has done really well, only allowed 1 sack or less in 7 or 8 games this year. That's tied for best in the NFL. Tony, listen, we know Mike McCarthy, or at least we think we do in what we've seen. Is Matt LaFleur really this good?
Well, no, he's not really this good, but we have to give him credit. I mean, it's hard when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback like Aaron Rodgers and like Bill Belichick did for so many years, and these guys, and Tomlin has had with Roethlisberger for a long time. It's really hard to judge your quarterbacks. judge your coach's performance when you have such a great quarterback. So it's difficult. I mean, how hard is it to go out there and coach a team with Aaron Rodgers? They haven't done a great job in the draft. We already saw that. What LaFleur did do, and we have to give him credit, is he created an environment for Aaron Rodgers to thrive, because Aaron Rodgers wasn't happy with McCarthy. It was just a bad fit. It was just a relationship that weren't as well. So LaFleur has done a great job in that aspect. X's and O's and stuff like that, time will tell. We'll see if you can win some games without Aaron Rodgers in the future, and if that Jordan Love experiment eventually takes place. This is a game, though, that Green Bay better stop the run, because you've seen it. San Francisco was on their fourth string running back last week when Green Bay beat them up. James Robinson can run the ball, and you've seen what Dalvin Cook did to this team, and Green Bay's defense has a tendency to get beat up. They don't have Jair Alexander. Now, can Green Bay, a team with Super Bowl aspiration, really lose to a team with Jake Luton and James Robinson as their starting quarterback and starting running back? It better not. I'm thankful I took this game. I got in early at 13.5. 14 seems right, but you know what? I expect to sweat this game a little bit, because if they can establish the run game, no Jair Alexander today for Green Bay. Expect DJ Chark to try to stretch the field a little bit. He had a huge catch last week. He'll probably get another one this week. It's going to be a sweat. Green Bay, this is a game Green Bay wins 28-14, something in that area, 20, it shouldn't be a laugher, but you know what? This Green Bay team might, make it a little difficult if they can't stop the run.
Mike, we make the point a lot of the time that Aaron Rodgers never gets any kind of drafted help by the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers has 388 career passing touchdowns. Just 3 of them have gone to a first-round pick, and that was Mercedes Lewis, who was not a Packers first-round pick. So he's carried for a very long time. This seems like a game where he's probably going to have a decent day, is my guess.
You'd think you would, Brian, but there's 3 games in the NFL today that there's chances of rain and wind, and this is another one of them.
Galetta bringing the weather report for every game. Dude, fucking Storm Galetta or
Hurricane
something.
Schwartz. Yeah, call me Hurricane Schwartz. No, I looked it up.
Well, your name is Schwartz, so I didn't call you Schwartz. I named you Galetta, so we're going to call you Galetta. So
Hurricane Galetta. There we go. There we go. So. But yeah, no, this is another windy game, and I think running backs take over again. You talk about Aaron Jones having the year he's having, but like Tony said, you're Green Bay and you have aspirations of the Super Bowl. It's coming with Jacksonville with James Robinson. A quarterback that they have. You better be able to slow this run down. They didn't have any luck with Dalvin Cook against Minnesota, but he's not Dalvin Cook, but he is a good running back. So. It's going to be interesting today. I think they go back and forth today. And I'll tell you what, I think 14 is a little bit high. I think Green Bay does win this game, but I'm going to throw a little money on Jacksonville today because I think they can cover that number, because Green Bay, I don't think it's still stopped the run. And I think that's what's going to be Jacksonville's, big thing for them today is going to be the run. Listen, Green Bay wins by 11. I still cover, but I think 14 is a little out of line for a running team like Jacksonville.
I mean, Green Bay's blown some teams out too. So, again, I think the number is enough to split the room, and that's what lines are meant to do: is get 10 people in a room and have 5 go on both sides. So, the 13.5, I obviously like better than 14. I probably would buy that half a point just in case, because I think if they do win, they do kind of hit it there. This could be a garbage time second half for Jacksonville, at least in the fourth quarter. We'll see if Luton goes out there and just like to throw it around the field. Missing Alexander Hurts. Green Bay's going to win this game. Don't know if they cover the 14.
Did you just call him Luton?
His name is Luton, whatever.
Luton. It just sounds like some Asian Mortal Kombat character. Here comes Luton.
Sick guy, right?
Yeah. Sounds like the Wu-Tang gang.
Choose your fighter, right?
Yeah.
A game with NFC East implications because it's the NFC East. The 3-4-1 Philadelphia Eagles try to get to 500 against the 2-7 New York Giants. Eagles laying 4 over/under 44.5. For the Eagles, they've won 8 straight over the Giants since week 9 of 2016, and the Giants' offense is sputtering, only 18.7 points per game. Just the Jets have scored fewer than that. Eagles are getting healthy. Alshon, Miles Sanders, Lane Johnson, Jason Peters, Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson, all should play in this game. No injury designation, so they are getting healthy at the right time if you believe that they can actually do something. I am not one of those people. Mike, the Giants stink, okay? And all this Daniel Jones talk, the guy's got like 5 career wins, 4 of them coming against Washington. They're 14-43 since 2017. That is the worst record in the entire NFL. Get me excited about this team. I mean, they've been in some games. Yes, the last 6 games have been one-possession games, but they lose unless they're playing the Redskins.
Brian, 2 years in a row, he's not had probably one of the best running backs in the league for 2 years now. And when you do that to a guy like Daniel Jones, that handicaps him big time because you can, just back up and let him beat you through cover his pass, and he's done. The Giants don't have a running game. The Giants are bad defensively. The Giants are a bad team all around. I know we get in the conversation that they need a quarterback. The Giants don't need a quarterback. The Giants are okay at quarterback right now. They need to build some things around him, an offensive line. They need some weapons for him. They need some things to build around Daniel Jones for now. I don't think that is the answer. But to get back to your first question, the Giants do stink. The Eagles, as bad as they played this year, are a better team than the Giants. I don't know if this is a runaway, but I think the Eagles do win this game, -4. Wentz hasn't played good this year. They do get Alshon back, big deal. From a talent perspective and the way they run their team, I think the Eagles can win this game by 4. The Giants don't scare me at all. The Giants are a bad team right now.
Well, both you guys keep mentioning how bad the Giants are, and every week I mention specifically is how hard they play. I think I picked them to cover pretty much freaking every week, in the last 5 weeks. So, I mean, this team plays hard. Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. He's a solid football player at this point, but he's not a good quarterback. Their defense does enough to make plays. I mean, if they should, there were Evan Ingram dropped from beating Philadelphia last time they played in Philadelphia. This game, to me, really comes down to the question mark, is Doug Peterson going to get his head out of his ass and utilize Miles Sanders like he should, or the rest of the running backs? Because, the lack of use for the running back, especially when you have Carson Wentz who's struggled, you can't come out and say that Daniel Jones and Carson Wentz aren't really struggling, both of them this season. They're looking at a team right now, though, with the Giants, they fight every game. Fletcher Cox being healthy is key with that disruption. No Saquon Barkley last 2 years. Maybe you don't pick a running back so high. They're injury prone and that doesn't do much to help your quarterback. So, as we said in the past, I'm not a believer of this Eagles team. I'm not a believer in this Giants team, but the Giants play hard. It's a division game. 4 points. I'm liking the 4 with the Giants. I'll take the Giants. I'll take the 4 points. I think it's going to be another close, ugly NFC game. Saying how bad the Giants are, they're only 1 win less than the Eagles.
No, I listen. I get it. I'm not. Like I said, coming into this game, it's relevant because it's the NFC East, and that's the only reason. Yeah. If not, then it really doesn't matter.
It's. I mean, it matters in our area, that's for sure. You know what I'm saying, and it's depending on what bandwagon people are pulling up on this week. But I mean, Giants are coming off a win against Washington. They're coming off a tough game. Tough loss. It's just insane the close games that they've been in all year. I mean, they only got blown out one time, and that was a 17-9 loss to the Rams. Got to give these guys credit. Sometimes they for whatever reason they're a bad football team, but they play hard. So I'll take the Giants. I'll take the 4. The game. What I'm going to bet here, though, I'm going to bet the over/under because I do think this might have a tendency to a couple big plays here or there. If Danny Dimes doesn't trip over the 25-yard line again, like he did last time they played, I mean, in spectacular fashion. I think the over 44. There has been weather concerns up there. Where's Hurricane Galetta at? But right now, it's a beautiful day in New Jersey right now, and I think it's going to continue.
One just line that as I was looking into this game, the Eagles have had 5 different offensive linemen make their NFL debut this season. That is tied for the most in the first 8 games of a season since 1991. Yeah. It's bad. It's not good. I'm not going to bet this game. I actually do. I agree with you. I think if you're betting anything, I would take the over. This seems like one of those games where if the Eagles do win it, it might be a field goal. So I can see where you might want to take the 4. But then again, Daniel Jones could just throw a pick and this could be a 10-point game just like that. So
No, absolutely.
the over, I think, is probably.
Do you know off the top of your head what Doug Peterson's record is off the bye?
I don't actually. Let me see if
I thought I heard this week that it's not very good. And, Ryan Leach made the comment about, Eagles should win by default coming off a bye. Getting healthier, yes.
Looks like it's 1-3 against the spread off a bye. I was able to find that relatively quickly, but I didn't.
That's good. Good teams cover, right?
Yeah.
I mean, good teams win, great teams cover. I think that's the line. But you're looking at a team. So hey, 1-3. I'll take the Giants. Either way, if they're not covering the spread, it's not a great performance. Let's just put it that way.
Mike, you're calling the game?
I like the Eagles. Give them 4.
We'll move to those Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mike, and I'm sure you have some thoughts. And again, Paul says, great teams cover.
That's what I said. Good teams win, great teams cover.
Great teams cover. Tampa Bay 6-3, Carolina 3-6. The Buccaneers -5.5 in this game. The over/under is 50, right on the nose. Brady is 6-2 in his career after throwing 3+ interceptions, which he did last week because, as we know, it was not a fun game for Tom Brady. And when he was asked how much did that one hurt, on a scale of 1 to 3, he gave it a 4.
Insane.
It's just a really weird game.
Bad last week with bad.
Carolina's got 3 receivers with 30+ touches and 400+ scrimmage yards. That I think is best in the league or close to it. They do spread the ball around. Mike, listen, we did ad nauseum on this game on Tuesday, but Brady hasn't really been as good the last couple of weeks. He's just 3 of 28 on deep passes of 20 or more yards through the air. The 3 that he's made were all against the Raiders in that game, which they pretty much blew them out. He hasn't played again, and he was quoted, "Hey, everybody loses, losing sucks," so on and so forth. Do you think that the fact that they didn't land in Carolina until after midnight plays any role in this game or any has impact on it?
No, and I try to be real objective about my team. I really try to lay it out there and not try to, it's like some people, objectively and things like that. I love the Bucs this week. I think Brady doesn't have a game like he did last week, and Brady's the kind of guy that his work ethic is going to say that he knows he didn't play well last week and he hasn't played well in 2 weeks now. So he's going to pick it up against the Carolina team that they've had success against. Mike Evans, the last time they played Carolina, had 7 catches for 107 yards, so hopefully he can get involved. I know Brady spreads the ball around a lot, so you really don't look at one receiver, but he's got Godwin there, he's got Evans, he's got Gronk involved now. I think that the Buccaneers, take them in this game, and especially with McCaffrey out. I think that's a big help for the Buccaneers. I like the Bucs given 5.5. I'll take the Bucs.
Yeah, I mean, we were all shocked, I guess, at what we had to witness in that New Orleans game. And we all thought that Tampa Bay was going to come out and kind of take a stranglehold on that division, and they literally just shit the bed. Bruce Arians this week calls out Tom Brady again, which not sure how that sits. It's like Tom Brady sitting there on that offense. And it's kind of like he just has so many toys and he doesn't know which one to play with. So he just kind of sits there and takes a nap, I mean, that's how bad it was. Some interesting things that came out this week, too. You guys know what time Tom Brady goes to bed? I'm sure Brandon does. Brandon Gazara's not here, but you know what time?
Brandon's usually in the room, so he does know.
Yeah, Brandon tucks him in. So, Tom Brady goes to bed every night at 9 o'clock. Might be a reason why he struggles, at these 8:30 games. He has a 9 o'clock bedtime, which is really weird. It's strange. It's just one of them oddities too. Like, how can you perform as well in night games when you're normally sleeping at that time? So it's just one of them things that kind of make you scratch your head. Little tidbit. They spent 7 hours on the tarmac in holding and everything like that going into Carolina. I mean, I don't know if my math's correct, but they might have been able to drive from Tampa to Carolina in that time period.
Probably would have been just as long, if not maybe a hair longer. But yeah, you're right, Tony.
Yeah, so a lot of weird factors going into the thing. And we talk about Tom Brady get right last game. You talk about Mike Evans. But listen, the key to this game last time was Leonard Fournette running the ball. He had his best game. He had over 100 yards, a couple touchdowns. I think he broke off a long run as well that might have skewed those numbers. But when you're looking at this matchup, this is a matchup. No Christian McCaffrey. The line stinks to high hell though. Minus 5.5, begging you to take Tampa Bay. I'm still going to take Tampa Bay. They were a national embarrassment. If they don't come out and look like a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, because listen, strong trend right now. They didn't look good against the Giants. They definitely did. They got lambasted by the New Orleans Saints when it was supposed to be, their crowning. Okay, if they come out and don't look good, they don't have to win this game. They have to win this game and look good doing it. Division game, on the road, whatever. If you're going to be a Super Bowl team that people have been saying, if you're going to be Tom Brady, and you have all these weapons, this is a game Tampa has to win. They have to look good and do. I think they will. I think it's going to be about a 28-21 win, good enough to cover. And I'll
just for sake of argument, Charlotte to Tampa is 8 hours and 11 minutes, so they saved an hour.
I was close.
Yeah, you were close.
I expect them to bounce back, but I think Carolina. I remember they were very close to pulling out a huge upset in Kansas City, and I think Kansas City is better than Tampa Bay. So, do I think that Carolina can find a way to keep this within 5.5 points? Yeah, I think it's very possible. And I think that maybe that might be a garbage maybe at the end. I don't know. Do I think the Bucs win? I think they have to win. The Bucs absolutely need this game because they have to get back on track. They did not look good 2 weeks ago against the Giants. They did not look good at all last week against the Saints. They need to look better in this game. The travel's an issue. It's a divisional game that's an issue. I think Carolina can cover the 5.5. I'm not saying they're going to win a game. Don't get me wrong. But I think Carolina can cover the 5.5. And I do think that line is begging you to take Tampa, which is why I think I'd rather have Carolina's end.
Yeah, it definitely smells.
I like the over in this game. I think it's going to be a track meet.
Well, if it is, though, that's fine. And maybe you like the over, and I'm not going to dispute that.
But Mike, a track meet does not bode well for Tampa Bay.
I agree. Yeah.
For all the weapons that they have, if this is a track meet against the Christian McCaffrey-less Panthers team, that's a problem. That's a big problem for Tampa Bay.
It is, and their defense should do fine. Because, they're better to bounce back after last week. Because if they have a game like last week, you're going to start really bringing this team down in rankings. Tampa Bay wins, but I think Carolina can cover 5.5.
Hey, Brian, I have breaking news.
Go ahead.
On the Masters, Tiger just recorded a quintuplet bogey. His worst ever, he got a 10 on a hole. He put 3 balls in the water. So anybody following the Masters out there, Tiger Woods, a 10 on a hole, put 3 balls in the water. So.
What I know about Tiger Woods is Tiger Woods' caddy wears a Ranger shirt all the time, and I like that.
Yeah, Tiger has no aspirations to win the Masters now, so it was over before the day started, but that's fine.
The last of the 5 1 p.m. games, we move now to the 4 o'clock games. The Denver Broncos take their 3-5 record into Vegas against the 5-3 Raiders. Raiders laying 3 and a hook. Interesting hook. Over under 51. For Vegas, listen to this stat. Henry Ruggs has 220 yards receiving this year. 192 came on four receptions. So if it's not a long bomb, he doesn't catch anything. Melvin Gordon for the Broncos, his touches have decreased now in 3 consecutive games. This does look pretty good, I think, for the Raiders, especially for Derek Carr. Broncos have allowed a top 10 fantasy quarterback in 4 of their last 5 games. The Broncos have, though, they've won 12 of their last 17 against the Raiders. The Raiders have won the last 4 straight at home. That home was Oakland, not Las Vegas. This is the first time there. Raiders are on pace to be the first team in the Super Bowl era to average less than 0.7 takeaways a game and 1.2 sacks per game. Their defense is not doing a whole hell of a lot. Mike, you know John Gruden better than the two of us do. You surprised by this?
No, not really. The Raiders have their spurts where they play well. And in this game, it looks real easy to take the Raiders because Denver 3-5, not playing that well. But you know what? Last week, Denver proved a lot of people wrong in that big comeback they had. It could have been the team. It could have been this and that. And I look at that line with the Raiders 3 and a hook. They always tell you the hook will kill you. And I kind of take that into fact too. I'll tell you, not just because I'm not a big fan of John Gruden, but I'm going to take Denver in this game, getting 3.5. just because I'm not confident the Raiders can pull away in this game. I think Denver, again, garbage time, maybe get a touchdown, close the gap a little, kick a field goal, win by 2 points or something like that. Yeah, I'm going to take Denver. I just think Locke looks a little bit more comfortable. He's having a little bit of fun out there, getting in touch with his receivers. Melvin Gordon hasn't been that good, and his decreases show it. But, yeah, I'm going to take Denver in this game. I think Denver can keep it close. Maybe not win the game, but I think they can keep it close.
Give me the Las Vegas Raiders to win in the Darth Vader Dome or whatever they call it down there in Las Vegas. Just too much offensive talent right now. Darren Waller. You mentioned Henry Ruggs, 192 and 220. He's also missed some games. That was a prop bet that I picked over season. It's over 750 yards. I think he continues to stretch that defense out. Josh Jacobs, he's not dead yet. John Gruden might make sure he's dead by the end of the season. I think he's like we mentioned, he just gets worked into the ground. The decreased touches for Melvin Gordon. Listen, Melvin Gordon got in trouble, got a DUI, right? Lost playing time. They inserted Phil Lindsay in the lineup, and Phil Lindsay looks like the better running back. When you see him touch the ball, there's more explosion. Yep. It just looks good, and that's why the Melvin Gordon signing was a little puzzling because, you had a much cheaper option than Philip Lindsay, and now he's kind of outplaying him, and so that's a key there. Drew Lock, that Denver offense though, it's Noah Fant, it's throw a Hail Mary to Jerry Jeudy every now and then and hope he comes up with it, and I just don't have enough confidence in it. Raiders have proven that it could beat big, good teams as they did with Kansas City, and to play out, and I think that the Raiders win this game. I don't like laying 3.5 in a bad division game, so I'm not going to touch that. But, I might lean to the over a little bit on this one as well. I think they do put up some points.
Divisional game. Listen, if you want to bet the Raiders, I might just buy the hook. That's all. I just think that, that hook gets you every single time. I was on Denver for a couple of weeks, and they went into Atlanta and looked terrible. They've been a fourth quarter team too. I don't know. The Raiders also, we talk about the Browns in a dogfight for the playoffs, the Raiders as well. So if the Raiders intend to make a run, this is a game that they need to win against a hobbled Broncos team. I will take the Raiders, but I'm buying the hook if I'm putting money on it, which I'm not. But if you are, I would say buy the hook. A battle of the 5th and 6th overall picks in the most recent NFL draft. The Los Angeles Chargers 2-6 go to the surprising Miami Dolphins 5-3, who are laying 1.5. I think that's actually up to 2.5 last I checked. I will double check that to be 100% sure, but I believe as I was refreshing that line had moved up, and it has to 2.5. Over under is actually up to 49 versus the screen's 48 there. Here's a stat for you guys. Starting quarterbacks, rookies from California teams are a combined 1-3-1 in the Eastern time zone since 1970. Does that mean anything in this game? Probably not. Interesting, though. But Justin Herbert's in the Offensive Rookie of the Year discussion there, Tone. So, interesting matchup here, to say the very least.
Listen, this is a fun matchup. Guys who are draft nicks and stuff like that. This is exciting to see Herbert and Tua go head to head. I mean, it's a fun matchup. But the matchup really is they don't ever play against each other. You know what I'm saying? So it's fun to see them battle. But the key is that the Miami Dolphins defense has been playing very, very well. Has been carrying them to victories. They beat a good Rams team at home a couple weeks ago. The Chargers are not a good team. I expect Miami and Tua to make enough plays because Tua made some plays last week too that, you kind of, okay, the first time he was out, he really didn't make too many plays. Then they just beat Arizona. So no one's going to sit here and tell me that Arizona and the Rams are worse teams than the Chargers. So Miami's been, have it going on all fronts. Tua hasn't been killing them. It's going to be a fun game. I'll take Miami and the defense at home over the Chargers, and I'll lay the 1.5. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a field goal game. It's just interesting to see if the Chargers are going to blow the game again.
Yeah, I think Miami. I'm on board with Tony with this. It's going to be a fun game. I think it's a dead over. To be honest with you, I think a lot of points are going to be in, especially with Bosa out. But Tua has been playing well. I mean, Herbert's been playing well. I think they both get the job done down the field, going up and back and down the field. But I think Miami's really doing it defensively. At the end, whoever is going to. I think Miami can pull this off. I definitely, and I'll take Miami and lay the 1.5. It is a close game, but I think they can cover this game too.
You just look at it, and if it's going to be a one-possession game, that bodes well for Miami because the Chargers lose those games. The Chargers are 3-15 in games decided by in one possession since 2019. That ain't good.
Yeah. Although now has been playing really well, I'll still take Miami in this game.
Yeah, your trends lead Dolphins here. They've won 4 straight. They're 4-1 in games outside the AFC East. Listen, if they intend to make a playoff run, they need to get this win too over a team that struggles in one possession games. So I will lay the 1.5 with Miami, although I have to tell you, I don't like it because I think the line is begging you to do that.
I just want to I just noticed something that came across the thing that, I know, let's talk a little fantasy football. We're in a matchup that I mentioned earlier, right? So I talked to DJ Chark might have a good game against the Packers.
Yep.
And then everybody's favorite idiot, Matthew Berry. I don't know if you ever guys watched the Matthew Berry in that fantasy show he does with the fucking puppets. What's that?
Try to avoid it.
Yeah, so he makes his matchup with the puppets and all that kind of stuff. It looks like Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse for fucking idiots, and I don't know if that's the demographic he goes, but it's just. But something just came across Twitter and everything like that. I can't think. So Matthew Berry goes out there and suggests not to play DJ Chark today because he's going to match up, and not even match up. He's going to be shadowed with Jair Alexander. Well, Jair Alexander's inactive. So how many people are paying for this guy's crap every fucking week? It just some of the people that get paid big money for this and they're famous, they're fucking clueless. Rather, you can watch us for free, and we're just as clueless as them. But every now and then we might get one right. Whereas I don't know if the Matthew Berry's track record speaks for itself. But
Matthew Berry is an ass clown.
I have a history with that fucking idiot.
Looking forward to this game. This game is one of these afternoon games I'm looking forward to as well. So the Buffalo Bills at 7-2 visit the 5-3 Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals laying 2.5 in this game. The over/under is the highest, I believe, of the weekend at 55.5. Arizona, the second team since the 1970 merger to average 28 plus points per game, 250 plus passing yards per game, 150 plus rushing yards per game. The only team that did that was the 98 49ers. This is a game where it's weird because I think both teams really do need it, but no outcome would surprise me. I'm buying Arizona. I know they lost a game last week to Miami. I thought they would win that game. Maybe if Zane Gonzalez hits a field goal, they have a shot to do so.
How are you short on a 49-yard fucking field goal in the NFL?
You can't do that. Mike Galletta makes that kick.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, good. I've made it in college. Maybe not now.
0% chance Mike Galletta makes a 49 field goal in the NFL. You know why? Because Mike Galletta ain't in the NFL.
That's true. That's true.
Got to be there. Your best ability is availability, and you weren't available in the NFL during your prime, buddy.
And I can't do it right now either. So
among the 20, you mentioned Stephon Diggs earlier in the show, Tony. Among the 20 teams that Stephon Diggs has faced multiple times in his career, the Cardinals are the only team he has fewer than 100 receiving yards against. We'll see if he breaks that streak today. However, also of note, the last quarterback to make the Pro Bowl at 5'10" or shorter was Doug Flutie. Kyler Murray might break that this year. I lean Arizona in this game. They have to get a win after last week. And again, Buffalo's defense isn't really going to light the world on fire. The offense has been driving it. I think this is a spot for Arizona to come. And again, Kyler Murray is as good as I don't know. The MVP talk might need to center back to him. I mean, this number one offense in football. Him and Josh Allen have accounted for 24 touchdowns this year. That's tied for third in the league. You got to love what they're doing, and he's really doing it all for them.
Yeah, listen, Arizona, and the thing that I really liked about Arizona last week and the development of Murray, yes, they lost to Miami. It was a tough game. Arizona still was able to put up points, so you can't put that on Murray at all. Okay. The thing that I really liked about Murray is Xavier Howard, as I mentioned, was going to give DeAndre Hopkins fits Kyler Murray still was extremely successful, had a huge game despite a receiver of Hopkins' status kind of being taken out of the game. Yes, there were some PIs and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, he was able to find a way to put up, I think it was like 34 points. If you put up 34 points in the NFL, you should win. Today, he's going to face the same thing. Tre'Davious White is going to be up against Hopkins, probably going to shadow him all against the field. So Kyler Murray is going to find a way to make plays. And he has to at home. I think that they're able to pull this game out against the Bills. But if you look at this game too, these are both two young quarterbacks that are better football players than they are quarterbacks at this point in their career. They're fun to watch. They make plays. Josh Allen's going to have a couple plays that you're just like, wow, what the hell did they do that for? And he's going to have a couple plays that said, oh my God, what a fucking amazing play. So this is going to be extremely entertaining game, should be high scoring, should be points. I think that Arizona pulls this out because Kyler Murray is going to make one better throw or one better play with his legs to beat Josh Allen. Tre'Davious White going to give Hopkins fits again. So don't expect a huge game out of him. And on the other side of the ball, Stephon Diggs is going to be matched up with Patrick Peterson. Peterson does sometimes struggle with the long ball, so expect maybe a big catch from Diggs, to continue it or beat Patterson. But I like the Bill. I'm reading Paul Allen's comment. No, I like the Cardinals in this game. Bet the under if you're a fucking martyr.
Yeah.
Wow. I like the Cardinals as well in this game. I think tough loss last week. They should have had the game in Miami. They probably should have won that. And you got the Bills coming off a big emotional win against Seattle. Stood in a shootout with Seattle. I thought that was good for Buffalo. But I think Arizona needs the game more than Buffalo does. I think Arizona comes down on top, and I'll lay it 2.5.
Yeah. 55.5 is definitely a tough line to cover. So
Paul Allen fade. Again, listen, and we made this point a lot.
Paul Allen should be doing some draft homework and not fucking worrying about.
He hasn't. The 2.5 point dogs in the NFL have covered a lot this year, but the last couple of weeks that trend's kind of fallen off a little bit. So just interesting there. Some of these lines maybe want you to take that small underdog, and then the favorite just wins. So
you guys think that 55 is way too high to take the over?
No, it's not way too high to take the over. It's scary. That's a ton of points.
Yeah.
I mean, it's extremely high number. I mean, if you're looking, it's not a game that I'm going to bet the over at all. And I mean, if you're going to bet it, the under is, probably the way to lean because, as Paul mentioned, fade. He's talking about fade in the public. You fade the public because everybody and their mother loves the offense of Arizona. Everybody loves, everything. So fade the public. You go under here, but at the same, it's higher to better. Oh, so yeah, well, it's legal now, Paul. So you're good on that one. Well, not, so that's what you're talking about. So that's a ton of points in the NFL though this year, man. We've been seeing a ton of points. So I was surprised about even though how bad the defense was in Seattle, I was surprised how many points were scored in the Buffalo Seattle matchup. So nothing's going to surprise me.
Talking totals. Speaking of totals, we mentioned this was the highest total of the week. The second highest total is also at 425. The Seattle Seahawks 6-2 against the 5-3 Los Angeles Rams. For, I guess, supremacy, at least temporarily, in the NFC West. The Rams laying 2.5 in this game. Again, 54.5 the total. Seattle has allowed more points and more net passing yards halfway through this season than the entirety of their 2013 Super Bowl season. That defense is not good. And if this team doesn't get to where they need to get to, that's why. And they tried to address it. 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. He's been injured, hasn't played overly well. Don't know how that's going to end up panning out. It's going to be a big contract if they choose to sign him.
And listen, it's already a bad trade. In today's NFL, you don't give up that much for a safety. We said it when the Cowboy fan idiots were saying we need Jamal Adams. We need Jamal Adams. What does Jamal Adams do on a bad secondary? Nothing. He's not a cover guy. You know what I'm saying? He's a phenomenal compliment to a team that already has cover, a decent secondary just makes it that much better. But a bad secondary, a safety like Jamal Adams for 2 first-round picks in this day and age, ridiculously bad.
Yeah.
I look at this game, and this is a game Seattle has to have, because they have to start making some separation between themselves and the two teams that are behind them in this division. They lost in Arizona. They lost in Buffalo. They got to figure that out. And, Tyler Lockett's had a bit of a rough stretch for the last 5 games. The Rams are doing very, very well. Keeping the receivers down in yardage. Keep an eye on that one, because if the offense can't get going, the defense sure as hell won't. But Goff's not that great after a bye. 1 touchdown, 6 his last 4 games after a bye, including the playoffs. This is the 10th matchup since 2013 between a top 2 scoring offense and a top 2 scoring defense. In week 10 or later, the offense has won 8 of 9 of those games. That does lean towards Seattle. But Mike, listen, the Rams defense, they've allowed fewer than 25 points in 6 of 8. That's 4th most in the league. The defense is playing well. Yeah,
it's gonna be tough sledding again in Seattle in this game too, because considering that Rams defense has gotten better. On the other side of the ball, the Seattle defense is bad, and they've shown it week after week after week. And the Rams have, surprisingly, I think Brian, me, and you can say since the beginning of the year, we thought this team was going to struggle this year. They've really put it together with Cooper Kupp and Woods, and they've played well this year, even with the rotating running backs. I'm going to take the Rams in this game. I think the Rams can beat Seattle, and I'll lay it 2.5. I think it's going to be, a game that's going to go back and forth. The over, I think, is definitely in play. But when it all said and done, the dust settles, I think the Rams can win this game on the backs of their defense.
This is going to be an interesting matchup. I love the matchup between Jalen Ramsey and DK Metcalf. You have 2 young players, on the ascension of their career. It's going to be extremely, extremely fun to watch them play. Can Aaron Donald chase Russell Wilson across the field? I think it is, but Wilson's still going to have some success. At this point of the season, the Seattle Seahawks are 6-2, and when you watch them play, it's kind of like, how are they 6-2 now? Because the defense is just that bad. One thing you have to love about the Rams, their offense, creative. They're going to score points too, and their defense is good. The numbers dictate they're good, but they're not going to be good against the Seattle offense either. Russell Wilson's going to be able to make plays. It's just two. So I love the over in this. We just talked about 55.5, and the other game was high. In this game, if both teams don't score at least 28 points, which right there is 54. 54, I'd be extremely surprised. But I expect both these teams to actually hit 30. They just the Seattle Seahawks don't have the bodies to keep up with that Rams attack. McVay does a phenomenal job, and Jared Goff just does good enough. You mentioned how he struggles coming out of a bye, Brian. He's never played against the Seattle defense coming out of a bye. And no one struggles against the Seattle defense. I'm off the top of my head. Has there been any quarterback this season that struggled against them? I can't think of that.
Listen. You look at they allow 25 to Atlanta, 30 to New England, whose offense is not good, 31 to the Cowboys, 23 to Miami, 26 to the Vikings, 37 to Arizona, 27 last week 2 weeks ago to San Francisco, who stinks. 44 to the Bills.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the names, you're naming the teams. Let's name the quarterback. Kirk Cousins lit them up. I think it was Fitzpatrick lit them up. The game that really opened my eyes against the Seattle defense and how bad it was pretty early on in the season when Cam Newton was extremely effective against them. That was like, oh wow, this defense is bad. And they're not bad. They're bad. I expected Jamal Adams to lay out Cam Newton and really fill the box and stuff like that. But they gave up points everywhere. I'm taking the over in this game. I'm not touching the game itself, but I do expect the Rams to win. But the over is my play.
Mike, your thoughts on Cam Newton generally?
He stinks. Okay?
It's not good.
Awful.
We'll go into more depth when that game comes up towards the end here. A rematch of a shootout from last year, which everybody remembers. This was for the leads in the NFC last year, and this was a great game that San Francisco won. A little different set of circumstances this time around. They are 4-5. They visit a 6-2 Saints team that's hot. Saints giving up 9.5 in this game, over under 49.5. There are people out there, Tony, who think that Alvin Kamara stinks. However, Alvin Kamara is the only running back in the Super Bowl era with career averages of 100-plus scrimming yards per game and 6.0 yards per touch. I would think that that's pretty good, being that he's the only one to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I heard he's decent. I mean, there's been some rumors that Alvin Kamara stinks overrated, and he's a product of Latavius Murray is a better back, and but that person's a flat out idiot. If this game right here, it's just one of them things where it's 49ers. They're going to be in a bad place at a bad time. Saints just run them out the park. They were embarrassed by Green Bay. Can you expect a little bit of a letdown game? No, I don't think so. That Saints team last week, it seems like they were pulling guys out of the parking lot to catch passes. I mean, Mike Thomas was back, and it wasn't the Mike Thomas 15 targets for 12 catch kind of game. I think if you look at the people who performed against Tampa Bay, everybody performed against Tampa Bay. I mean, and it was just insane. So I think that they continue just to go out there. Drew Brees slings the ball all over the parking lot. The defense, who only they held Tom Brady to 3 points. What the hell is Nick Mullins going to do? Mosert's not back. Kittles isn't playing. Deebo Samuel isn't playing. The cupboard is bare in San Francisco, and they're going down to New Orleans, and they're going to get blown out the door. 9.5 points normally is a trap line, but you know what? I don't see the 49ers being within 14 points of this New Orleans team. I'll take New Orleans, and I'm going to look to, depending on how I do against the 1 o'clock games, I'm going to look to maybe laying 13.5, 14 with the better odds.
Yeah, this is going to be a bloodbath. I think San Fran's walking into a hornet's nest where they go to the Saints and Drew Brees with all these options. He's going to be throwing the ball all over the place. San Fran is depleted as they are. I mean, what do they have to try to keep up with this Saints team with? It's going to be tough. Kamara has a big day. It doesn't look good for San Francisco. I'm with Tony. I'll take New Orleans, given a 9.5. I think they win by double digits, if not more.
How's the weather in New Orleans, Mike?
That's good in the dome. It's very good.
Listen, coming off that loss we all remember in Vegas against the Raiders, the Saints have won 5 straight. Brees has 11 touchdowns in those 5 games. So you can talk about how he's not airing it out anymore, and that's valid. But they are winning games, and they won a big one last week. Do you see a letdown after that? I don't think so. It's a very well-coached team with strong leadership. I just don't see that being an issue for this team. But the Niners are just, listen, they've allowed 30-plus points in 2 straight games for the first time since week 6 and 7 of 2018. They've allowed 6 receiving touchdowns to receivers the last 2 games. I mean, start your Saints. The 9.5 might be low, but I think it's low because it's still a 4-5 team. I mean, if I lay it with the Saints. If they screw me, they screw me. But I would lay it with the Saints because the Niners are 0-5 when allowing 24 points or more. And guess what? They're going to allow 24 points in this game. Yeah. So no one's going to win this game. I'm not worried about that.
I'm just getting a report. The AC unit's acting up in the dome. It's going haywire, so it might be a little chilly. So that could affect the game, I think, a little bit. So
Drew Brees' career, second highest passer rate against the Niners since they joined the NFL in 1950. This doesn't bode well for the Niners running game, which is really the crux of how they win and how they score. They've allowed the 5th fewest fantasy points per game in the running backs this year. Give it to Saints. Give it late at 10, lay 14, Tony. I mean, yeah, I don't care. I think I'd probably consider that. So that's my reading.
One of the weird things too, we talk about all these 4 o'clock games. The 4 o'clock slate is just packed. I mean, I can't remember the last time there was so many 4 o'clock games more than 1 o'clock games. Very interesting anomaly on the schedule in the NFL today.
Yep.
That's because they wanted to highlight the Giants and Eagles game. Big division battle.
This is a battle in the AFC North, which the future versus the past, well, maybe the present. I shouldn't say that, but the soon to be past. 2-5-1 Bengals and Joe Burrow visit the 8-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, laying a round 7 points. Over under 46. Pittsburgh 8-2, averaging 26.4 points per game with Ben since 2019. 8-6, 18 points per game without him last year. Joe Burrow, the 8th rookie starting quarterback to face an undefeated team in week 10 or later since 1950. Previous QBs 1-6. Mike, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers probably win this game, but Tony has some valid points. They didn't look very good last week.
No, and I think when you got a team like Cincinnati who throws the ball around a ton, that could be something that Pittsburgh at the end of the game lets in a garbage touchdown or something. But make no bones about it, Pittsburgh is a better team. Better talent. Roethlisberger was cleared to play after being, not tested positive for COVID, but just being careful with that because being around Vance McDonald. But Connor's having a good year. They got receivers in Pittsburgh. Cincinnati, they seem like they're fighting a little bit for this guy, for Joe Burrow, who's playing really well and hitting some receivers. AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins has played really well. Bernard back there. But yeah, I think it's going to be a back and forth game. I think the Steelers eventually win this game. But you know what? They haven't really shown me that they're the Pittsburgh Steelers that look like that show the undefeated record they are. I'll take the Bengals getting 7 points. Because I think there's going to be a garbage touchdown at the end of the game, and Cincinnati can cover. Pittsburgh will win this game, but I think Cincinnati can hang close, maybe lose by a field goal.
Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I have, like I said earlier, I have a little bit of lack of confidence in the Steelers. The thing that might save them today, and I was surprised Hurricane Galetta didn't bring it up, is the bad weather. Not sure how Burrow is going to perform in rain and high winds, but when you're looking at that team in Pittsburgh, you know how Roethlisberger can perform in bad weather and how he can perform in bathrooms as well. So when you're looking at those combinations, it's the key. If Cincinnati can get to the quarterback, and they haven't been horrible doing that this year, and they could beat him up like Dallas did last week. Dallas beat him up, COVID scare, whatever. Ben Roethlisberger's problems are his knees now and his elbow, and that's and the knees are a new issue. And we know if they could get to him, they're a completely different team. They looked bad and got lit up by Garrett Gilbert. That defense, if the Cowboys were just a little bit better team, they win that game easily. They just didn't make a couple plays down the stretch to secure the W. I think Cincinnati has ability. No, Joe Mixon kind of puts a little, tarnish on this game for the playmaker, but Gio Bernard is one of the better backup backs in the NFL. I like Cincinnati, and I'm going to pick them to win outright today.
Wow.
We'll go.
Is that a money line bet, Tony?
No, I'm not putting any money on it.
Bengals have lost their first game after the bye in 4 straight years. The last time they won was against Pittsburgh, week 8 of 2015. What I think that is going to be a struggle for Burrow in this game is that nobody pressures more than Pittsburgh. 43.5% of dropbacks have pressure, highest in the league. Joe Burrow has yet to throw a touchdown when under pressure. It's going to limit his opportunities. The Bengals, though, have scored points, right? So they've scored 27 points or more the last 3 straight games. That's tied for the 3rd longest active streak. So, again, Pittsburgh did look I don't know. They looked like they could be scored upon last week by a pretty piss-poor Cowboys offense. So I think the Steelers win. The 7's probably right. So I'm not going to bet the game. But if you want to bet the game, I'd take the 6.5. I'd get that, try to get that line down, or I would try to buy the half point. Because I think a touchdown is probably where it ends up. Because I think that if Cincy gets to about 20 points, I think 27 is probably about right for Pittsburgh, given where they normally score. So I'll go there. The Sunday night game, talk about past versus the future and the present. The Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson 6-2. They visit the 3-5 New England Patriots, coming off their huge win last week by this much over the winless New York Jets. Ravens laying 7 in this game. The over-under is 43.5. Baltimore 10 straight wins on the road, longest active streak in the NFL. Baltimore 20 points or more in 31 straight games, longest streak in the NFL. Mike, I know you said that Cam Newton stinks. You said that once or twice on this program. This looks like a game where the Ravens can, they beat this Pats team last year and kind of, vaulted themselves from that. Whether you think Pittsburgh wins or not, Ravens need this win to continue keeping that gap as close as possible.
I'm just going to tell you, I think the Ravens go to New England tonight and absolutely embarrass the New England Patriots, because the Patriots struggled against a horrible Jets team last week. And you could say the Jets, played well and, this and that, and they blew it at the end. They probably should have won the game and all. This Baltimore Ravens team we talked about needs to get rolling. Well, this is the spot where they get rolling. Cam Newton is going to struggle against this defense, something severe, because Cam Newton's not a good quarterback, folks. Cam Newton stinks. And this is not the old New England team that we saw with Brady and Bunch and, playing, spreading the ball around, doing this and that. This is a team who's struggling right now, the Patriots. And even though they won last week against a bad Jets team, They're 3-5, and they're not playing well. I think the Ravens do get back on track tonight. They get people involved again, like Marquise Brown. They get Andrews involved. Jackson runs the ball in maybe once, gets some yardage tonight. I don't think it's even close. I love Baltimore given the 7 points tonight, and I think it's a runaway.
This is how bad the New England Patriots are. They gave up 27 points to a team who's trying to intentionally tank. That has Joe Flacco. Yep. Now, the only reason why New England won last week is because the Jets tanked. If you watch that, there's no way in high hell and holy water that you're looking for the Jets to throw that pass in double coverage to Denzel Mims that was so far off. It was like they were just trying to give the ball away. That situation dictates and mandates in every NFL game since the history of man that you run the ball and you end the game and you win the game. That's all the Jets had to do. And what did they do? It was like they threw a punt, actually. They just told Joe Flacco to go out there and punt the ball back to him so New England could win the game. If that game wasn't the epitome of tanking, I don't know what is. The Baltimore Ravens are going to run up and down the field, and they are going to go in New England. Harbaugh is going to make a point to embarrass Belichick. He is going to go out there. Lamar Jackson destroys this laughable defense. Mark Ingram's playing. Gus Edwards is playing. J.K. Dobbins is playing. They have all the weapons. And not only that is they called out Greg Roman for the inefficiency of the offense. People know their plays, blah, blah, blah. The one player I'm a little down on is Mark Andrews, just because for whatever reason, the New England Patriots have had some success against the tight end. So I'm going to be a little bit down on him. But other than that, I think everybody else gets really, really right in this game. I'm going to predict that the Ravens cover the over-under by themselves. They put up I want to say a 50 piece on them. But wow. we're going to go. The Ravens score for 44 tonight.
Brian, is this on? Hold on.
I hear you just fine.
Cam stinks. Okay, he is awful.
How many pick six? What's the over under on pick sixes Cam throws tonight?
I'll say 2. No, I'll say 1.5.
1.5. Yeah, that's a good line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, and I said coming into the year that, like, this guy needed to basically make it happen this year. He wasn't going to get any more shots in the NFL. And unfortunately for him, I think that he hasn't really had a chance. He hasn't really done that.
Nope.
I mean, he looked good against Seattle defense.
Cam, keep doing the in the end zone. Yeah, you're doing well with that. It's good.
And you mentioned, Cam Newton's going to embarrass, Patriots are going to get embarrassed tonight. They get embarrassed every time Cam Newton walks into the damn building with them friggin' ridiculous outfits that he wears.
Terrible, yeah.
I mean, I can't see a worse fit in the NFL than Bill Belichick.
He's more of a trying to be fashion conscious than actually play the game. So that's where he's screwing up. So
he's just one of these people I think that is a little bit out of touch with reality.
Yep.
No reason for him to be still starting. I mean, I think they need to put Jarrett Stidham in. Give him the complete end of the season look, see what they got there, and then move on with the future.
Oh, if they get embarrassed tonight, Tony, it's going to be thought about. It's definitely going to be thought about.
Listen, Bill Belichick goes to bed every night thinking about it, and he knows what to do because he's not an idiot, and he knows that's the right move for his team because he already did it early in the season, and PR-wise and stuff like that, it's just not the look that they want right now.
So, Brian, you're taking the Patriots, aren't you?
No, not at all. No, not at all. I think this is a game that I agree. The Baltimore just look, they're so good on the road, and this team stinks. Okay, if that's what you put up against the New York Jets, a team who's actively trying to lose games, I mean, I don't know what else to say. Kevin, thanks, but appreciate it. Yeah, this is going to be a laugher, and if they could flex this game out, they probably would. I mean, it's not going to. You think about the Bills, Cardinals, the Seahawks, Rams, even the Chargers, Dolphins that are afternoon games would be such a better spot in the Sunday night game.
Probably should have put the Rams, Seattle in there.
I am going to enjoy watching Baltimore destroy the Patriots probably just as much as I'm going to enjoy watching the other games. So yeah, you're right. Matchup wise, game wise, yeah, better flex. But you know what? Would love to see it. Now here's the thing too. Let's go into the realistic situation. Okay. Primetime home dogs, very good trend. So I mean, let's not be too shocked if New England puts up a little bit of fight, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, no, not against this team. Dude, listen, but Baltimore's just too good on the road, and they score too many points. I don't think they're going to score too many points. New England can't score.
Right. That's why I say they're going to cover. That's why Baltimore's covering the over by themselves,
especially against top 5 defense. So yeah, that's not happening.
Last but certainly not least, the Minnesota Vikings take their 3-5 record into Chicago, where the Bears are 5-4. The Vikings, despite being 3-5, are laying 3 points in this game. Over under is 43. Minnesota is just 4-16 at the Bears since the year 2000. Bears have dropped 3 in a row after their 5-1 start. Kirk Cousins, the most Monday Night Football losses without a win since 2000. Look, I've been bashing the Bears all year. I said that was the worst 5-X team I've seen in my entire life. And then 5-4, it stays the same. They stink. They can't score any offensive points. Don't like it. Don't like it at all. For me, I mean, if you are betting the Bears, it's because you're betting because Kirk Cousins doesn't win these games. That's my thought. That's the only reason you'd like to go that way.
Interdivision home dog. I mean, that too. That's always a good betting trend. So,
yeah. Well, I was just about that. That's the huge point that we're looking at right now. Kirk Cousins, primetime Kirk Cousins might be the worst thing known to man. It's just it's just a remarkable floundering of yeah, like we say here, most Monday Night Football losses without wins since 2000. Is this the year? Is this the team that Kirk Cousins finally gets his win? I don't know. I mean, if Dalvin Cook could run for 150 yards like he does every night against his Bears defense, he has a great shot. Is this – I mean, the Bears team every week when they were, 3-0, 4-0, whatever it was, and I mean, we kept scratching our heads like, how is this team winning? This might be a game when we come back like they did against Tampa Bay. It's like, how the hell did the Bears win that game? Oh, that's right. Kirk Cousins threw 2 interceptions. One was a pick 6, and Bears had a return touchdown, and it was ugly. No way I'm taking the Vikings laying 3. No way I'm touching this game. I'll take Chicago to win just because it's just one of them games where are you idiotic to take Kirk Cousins? So I'll take the Bears to win and I'm going to predict, even though without David Montgomery, I think Cordell Patterson has a revenge game against Minnesota, and he gets in the end zone some type of way.
Yeah, this is going to be a dog food type game. This is going to be not a good game because Kirk Cousins' experiment, that Kirk Cousins experiment has sailed. Although Jefferson's been a bright spot for them, Dalvin Cook has run the ball all over the place. And I don't even know how I honestly don't even know how Chicago gets done because I'm not a Nick Foles fan. I don't think he's that good either. I mean, Montgomery's out of the game, I think, tonight, if I believe so, right?
Yes.
So Montgomery's not back there. I mean, it's bad, but I'm like Tony. I just can't, and I won't touch the game either, but you can't possibly think that, Minnesota can win this game. I mean, they could win this game, but I'll take Chicago getting 3 points just because I like the interdivisional home dog trend, that too. And I just think it's going to be a low-scoring defensive struggle, and I think Chicago's defense is a little bit better than Minnesota.
This is a game that Minnesota wins they could actually string together. So what they won, they beat Green Bay, they beat Detroit, if they beat Chicago, because they did beat Green Bay at Green Bay. So the road.
I just don't know how Chicago can put together something to win this game. To be honest with you, their offense is terrible too.
It's tough, but I mean, if they beat Chicago, then they face Dallas, Carolina, Jacksonville, and you could be looking at sneakily talking about Minnesota as a potential playoff team if they rip off. So that would be 6 straight wins. If they rip off 4 more wins, I mean, you're looking at a 7-5 team.
They're back in the hunt. Yeah.
It's at worst it might be 6-6 depending on what team they put together. So very, very interesting path and game for Minnesota here. But I think Chicago gets it done by hook or crook.
I mean, the thing is, can Dalvin Cook really continue on this torrid pace? I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, why not? He has the talent.
A lot.
If he does against this team, guess what? Man.
Well, the talent's there, the opportunity's there. I mean, what's he averaging per game?
The last couple games, 370 yards and 6 touchdowns the past 2 weeks. I mean, he's been on fire, absolute fire.
Right. So he's averaging what, about $1.50? He's averaging $1.20 a game. So I mean, he's only got seven games played. He's averaging $1.20.
Like 140-ish.
What's that?
Yeah.
No, he's averaging 122 yards per game.
Oh, for the season. Okay.
For the season, and yeah, I mean, he put up what, $1.63 and then 206 the next game. I mean, it's unlikely he does that, but at the same time, if he puts up 100, well, against Tennessee, he had 181 and a 130, then he dropped down against Seattle, and that was a little weird against that defense.
Even if he keeps in the 90s, I mean, that's even impressive, I think. So,
but Dalvin Cook breaks 100 on Monday night. I think that's a given.
Yeah, no, I agree, and he gets in the end zone too. So, guys, that wraps up week 10. Any last thoughts on anybody's end there?
Cam Newton stinks.
Well, staying on Dalvin Cook, if you had the 5th, 6th pick in a fantasy draft this year, and you had to watch Saquon Barkley get picked ahead of you, and McCaffrey get picked ahead, and Zeke get picked ahead, and you're sitting there with a 4th, 5th pick, and you wind up with Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara or Derrick Henry, you're sitting pretty.
I think Brady makes a better performance this week. I think they beat Carolina. I think it's, I think I definitely lay the 6.5.
Well, let's put it this way, Mike. If Brady has a worse performance, then I mean, the only way Brady has a worse performance is if he dies during a halftime celebration or something like that.
No, I agree. With no McCaffrey, yeah, that's absolutely 100%.
There you go. So that wraps up week 10 on the Sports Box Sunday preview. Enjoy the games today. Again, 5 at 1 o'clock, 6 in the 4 o'clock hour. So definitely want to it's going to be a fun day. It's going to be a fun day. I want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Crowd Play. Download the Apple App Store, Google Play. Use code THEBOX. Get 10 free points at sign up. So give them some dap. Check their app out. Maybe win some money on behalf of the boys. Make it a great Sunday. And we'll see you all next week.
Thank you for watching the Sports Box. Follow us on Facebook at Sports Box Show, Twitter at Sports Box Show, Instagram at The Sports Box Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our friends at Crowd Play. Download the free Crowd Play app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 points. See you next time.